Heston Blumenthal, Britain's most visionary chef, is on a mission impossible.
I am horrified at some of the slop that passes off as food and is served up in British institutions up and down the country.
Now Heston will be using his magic to tackle the problems defeating some of Britain's top industrial chefs.
I want them to rip up their recipe books and approach food and eating in a completely new way.
Whether high up in the sky...
Okay, we're off.
We can have 2 more trays, please.
Okay, we're off. Go in. Excuse me.
We would not have time to do this on board the aircraft.
or 20,000 leagues under the sea. He'll face unique logistical difficulties and stubborn cooks who don't like change.
It's our way or no way.
Tonight, Heston's extraordinary challenge is to tackle the menu on board a Royal Navy nuclear submarine. Can he wean the sailors off the stodge they love?
You've got to give them right a fried breakfast every morning when you're in the military.
He wants to devise healthy alternatives the men will eat.
That is horrendous.
That will stay edible for 90 days at sea.
After about 5 weeks, things start going green, and then the scrambled egg starts going blue.
And all on a shoestring.
Got £2.34 per man per day.
Less than a prison again.
These men are defending our country. So it's shocking that they're fed such unwholesome stodge. And what we should be doing is honouring them with the best food that money can buy.
Three Michelin-starred chef Heston Blumenthal is about to step into one of the world's most challenging cooking environments.
I've got an amazing letter. Okay. So this is from Navy Command on HMS Turbulent, which is the submarine. Mr. Blumenthal, we are submariners, specialist warriors conducting high-end missions for Her Majesty's government worldwide. We have fantastic chefs who cook despite considerably challenging conditions. Fresh food runs out quickly, they must provide excellent food for over 90 days. You can help us make this better. You are an expert. Your country needs you, Mr. Blumenthal. Now, that is really exciting.
Facing harsh cuts to its budget, morale in the Navy is under threat. Last year, 1 in 6 sailors either failed their fitness test or didn't take it. Navy Command believes good, healthy food on board is critical for morale.
Reach 4,500 yards, course 215, speed 50.
The submarine boasts a traditional English menu, but it's stodgy and fresh food runs out quickly.
They start with fresh eggs, and that's fine. And after about 5 weeks, things start going green, and then the scrambled egg starts going blue.
Supplies run out after 90 days. Then, operations are stalled while the sub returns to port to restock provisions. HMS Turbulent is a state-of-the-art military machine. Heston wants to get the cooking up to the same standard as the fighting capability.
Imagine as a kid someone say you're going to be going on a submarine, on a nuclear submarine, underwater. I am incredibly excited. I've kind of got to remind myself, though, that I'm here to do a job.
But the crew of the Turbulent are less than enthusiastic to have Heston on board.
I saw one of his shows once where he tried leeches that have been sucking on geese blood, which was not something I'm ready for, to be honest.
And the captain's worried Heston will find it hard to cope in such a challenging environment.
He's got to work within the constraints of the submarine itself. The use of liquid nitrogen or sticking orange inside a chicken and then burning it, that isn't going to work on board here.
Down the hatch. Here we go.
Heston has 24 hours in which to find out what it's like to cook and eat thousands of feet below sea level. In his restaurant, he's used to being the boss. Now he'll be taking orders from Commander Ryan Ramsey, who served in the Royal Navy for almost 20 years.
There, behind those tunnel doors, that's the nuclear reactor, and it's enough power to power up half of Plymouth, effectively. proven that we're completely self-sufficient. The only thing that limits us that we can't make ourselves is food. We can't grow our own food on board the platform.
The nerve centre of the sub is the control room, where the men perform precision operations requiring intense mental focus.
The helmsman is currently driving the submarine, and you can see the concentration that's required in order to do that.
Helmsman?
If I can just stop you there, yeah, just concentrating on keeping course at the moment.
Right, okay.
They mustn't get distracted.
And he'll be doing that for how long?
He'll do it in 1 hour or 2 hour slots.
Yeah, it strikes me that the single most important thing in this whole area is concentration.
Yes, absolutely.
You have to stay focused.
Steer 1, 2, 3.
Just thinking about the food, has there been any work done on the kind of foods that submariners should eat in order to keep concentration, to help sleep, to get them awake when they need to be awake?
Not to my knowledge.
On course 125.
Hang on, Captain. Cheers.
Heston's about to get his first look at the food which fuels these men on missions of national security.
What's for dinner?
I've no idea. I just got up.
Have you? Just woken up?
I've just got up.
The rota system means the men on night watch, like able seaman Newman, have to eat their dinner when they've just woken up.
I guess it's not going to be breakfast, it's going to be served. Because it's night time.
Yeah, I see what you mean, yeah.
So able seaman Newman's nighttime breakfast is roast with Yorkshire pud and spuds, followed by spotted dick. Hearty food like this is fine for a one-off, but Heston soon discovers the men are served high-calorie food for every meal, day in, day out.
And dinner's usually our heaviest meal, and when you go to sleep on that and you wake up, you don't feel 100% when you wake up with all that food still in your belly.
And they've got to sit potentially in front of a screen, the same screen for 6 hours or so, and they keep maximum concentration, and that can be quite challenging.
But the weekly menu routine gives the men something to look forward to in a life without daylight or fresh air.
I mean, it gives us that routine. It's Friday, fish and chips with mushy peas, and everyone enjoys that. You know,
I've only got 4 fish days left.
You judge how much time you got left by the
What's your
meals.
favourite dinner?
What is the favourite dinner? Is there one?
I'd say steak night.
Yeah, steak night is the most popular.
I think it just lifts the morale of all the men on a Saturday night. It's definitely a peak.
Worried it's going to be hard to shift the men from their routine, Heston tracks down Commander Ramsey and his executive officer Gareth Jenkins. They believe comfort food is what keeps the men going.
When you've got no focus apart from your work, food becomes basically the key component of morale on board. And actually, if the food's not good enough, the morale goes down, and then I've got a problem, and I don't need any other problems than dealing with the enemy itself.
We've got chefs on board who provide probably about 500 meals per day, and they do that within some pretty tight constraints. First one being the budget. They've got £2.34 per man per day to provide 3 meals.
That's a shockingly low amount of money. And less than a prisoner would get.
It's the same as a prisoner.
Or the same as a prisoner.
Exactly the same. I think the lads do a very good job with what they've got. So if you're able to go in there and somehow add value to that or enhance it, that'd be fantastic. But if you can't, then we'll just have to take you out of the galley and put our own chefs back in.
This challenge just seems to be getting harder and harder. I mean, they've got £2.30 odd budget. There's obvious space issues. Fresh food is a big problem. You can't go back to the supermarket underwater for 3 months. And there's the routine of the weekly menus and the unhealthy nature of the dishes. So I don't know how I'm going to make any important changes without causing a blooming mutiny.
With dinner over, the captain shows Heston his sleeping quarters.
Well, it'll be nice and quiet because obviously people are asleep.
It's not quite what he was expecting. The crew's bunks are jammed between the missiles.
This is the weapons hold.
Yeah, this is the weapons storage compartment, and in here we have Tomahawk missiles and Spearfish torpedoes.
So is that what's that one then?
This one here is a Spearfish torpedo. Can take out most surface ships and submarines as well.
Heston beds down next to the torpedo.
The sea is the story. I suppose it's the first time for everything. I'll see you in the morning.
Heston Blumenthal has just spent his first night on board nuclear sub HMS Turbulent, where he's been brought in to overhaul the crew's eating habits.
That was an incredibly restless night. The bed moved around all over the show. I had about half-hour sleep.
Last night he joined the men for a gut-busting roast dinner. Will breakfast be any healthier?
Hey, how you doing? Heston. Hey, how's it going?
I'm Martin.
Martin, the overnight chef, works a 10-hour shift prepping food for the next day and cooking breakfast.
Sausages in the oven.
What's for breakfast?
We got bacon, sausage, fried eggs.
So full-on English?
Full-on English, yeah.
What shall I do?
You can get the bacon trade up ready for us.
Yeah, here.
Yeah.
Every day, Martin cooks 90 rashers of bacon, 80 sausages, and 70 eggs.
How long do you have eggs on board for?
Usually a month or so, but that's pretty much their limit, the month. It's our top shelf there.
Do you really think people need a cooked breakfast every single day?
They probably don't need it every day, but it's something they got used to, you know. It's a personal choice that they don't have to have it. If they want the bacon and the sausage, they've got it there.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't eat a cooked breakfast at all, but I don't know anybody that eats a fry-up every single morning of the day.
Yeah, it is a lot to eat.
You ready, chef?
Yeah, go for it.
After their artery-busting breakfast, the crew will walk roughly 200 paces during their morning shift. That's about 1/10 of a typical office worker, before sitting down to a heavy lunch.
If I said, right guys, I'm going to take your breakfast away for at least half of the week, maybe more.
The old boys would find it very hard to deal with. I mean, they'd probably be an uproar about it.
The old boys and some of the younger ones are already wary about Heston getting his hands on their food.
It's one of them things, isn't it? It's your God-given right, a fried breakfast every morning when you're in the military.
We're creatures of habit, and we're scared of change. We're used to what we like, or we like what we're used to.
As human beings, we're hardwired to crave fat and sweet because it gives us energy. But that goes back to thousands and thousands of years when we used to do lots of walking around and lots of manual work. A lot of the guys on this sub hardly walk around at all. So they're eating all that food, it's sitting in their stomachs, it's making them unhealthy, making them unfit.
Believing he's got to wean the submariners off the stodge they love, Heston heads back to the mainland. With a pitiful budget, sceptical officers, limited space on board, and the problem of keeping food fresh for 90 days at sea, it looks like Heston's got his work cut out. At his restaurant kitchen in the village of Bray, Heston briefs his development chef, Jockey.
Breakfast was a full fry-up, and they have that every single morning.
For 3 months?
For 3 months. Bacon, sausages, the lot. And over the course of the 24 hours, there was enough fried food, enough stodge, enough starch and carbohydrate to send you to sleep. The captain, he said to me after a while on there, he keeps banging his head.
So these guys are the front line of defence and they're getting clumsy inside the submarine?
Yeah. You've got state-of-the-art kind of missile launchers and tracking systems and sonic radar and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the food, there's no consideration for what it can do to their performance.
Heston knows that as well as cutting down on fatty stodge, he'll need to use ingredients that stimulate the brain and nervous system in order to keep the men alert. At King's College in London,
Hi Heston, welcome.
he meets neuroscientist Sandrine Touré, an expert in the effect of diet on the brain.
All those tadpole-like things
Yes.
are they're brain cells, are they?
Yeah, they are.
Heston wants to see the effect of feeding omega-3, a brain-boosting fatty acid found in fish, on a bunch of brain cells.
Don't think I've ever fed a brain cell before.
After incubation, he re-examines them under the microscope.
And here you should see that there are more of these red cells in the omega-3 fatty acid treated cells.
Yeah, definitely more. So feeding a load of submariners oily fish will make it a happy submarine.
Hopefully.
But oily fish isn't the only food that can boost brain power.
What we have looked at, and other people as well have found, is that flavonoids, which are small molecules present in a lot of vegetable and fruits.
Yes.
So for example, blueberries, and this seems to have a similar effect. Flavonoids are also contained in cocoa, in dark chocolate, very dark chocolate.
Heston leaves the lab with a plan.
If we construct certain menus for the submarine and tell the chef to use certain ingredients, fatty fish, chocolate, blueberries, I'm sure there's more. It could be that over the course of the months while they're underwater, they can regenerate their brain cells. How cool is that?
Back in Bray, Heston and jockeys see what they can come up with using mackerel, chocolate and blueberries to make a super healthy brain food.
I've no idea where we're going to go with this.
First up, mackerel with a chocolate dip. It's just not a combination that's going to work. But perhaps mackerel and blueberries, smoked together in hay, will.
It's quite appetizing.
And smoking it with the blueberries gives the mackerel a really nice, it's like fruity note.
Heston's sure he's onto something, but how will his brain food go down on board HMS Turbulent? As the submariners are currently on operations at sea,
Keep 60 metres, revolutions for 8 knots.
Heston seeks the view of those who know them best, the women they leave behind.
Hi there, how you doing?
He's invited the captain's wife Corinne, able seaman Newman's girlfriend, and one of the junior ratings mums to road test his new invention.
I've got some ideas of where I think the food needs to go on the sub, and I wanted to try it out on your guys, but it's a bit tricky because they're underwater right now. So I thought you ladies would be the next best thing.
Yeah, and basically if it all goes wrong, it's our fault then, is it?
I didn't exactly say that, but yeah.
Yeah.
So just take that, just have a blueberry with it.
It's an unusual combination.
Heston knows the men love fish and chips, so what about mackerel and blueberries?
I mean, most guys like fish.
But the fish and fruit combination might.
Well, they don't have to have
And
fruit.
it's not fully cooked either, so there's a lot of them that will go, ooh.
Raw food.
Yeah.
Now the idea with this is combining two foods that are very good for you and very good for the brain.
But you've got to be very careful, haven't you? Because your mum always said, eat your sprouts, they're good for you. And if you go on the boat with this and say, eat it, it's good for you.
Everyone's going to go.
Everyone's going to say, no, mum.
Yeah.
That is one of the challenges. I have to say, I was pretty disappointed with that. I was convinced that the ladies were going to be all for my healthy menu. So now, I've got to try and incorporate the blueberries and the mackerel into my menu, but in a way that's going to excite the guys on board. Otherwise, they're just not going to eat them.
Tradition is important to the Navy, and Heston thinks it might be a way of getting the men excited about food. At the naval base at Plymouth, he's hoping he might find inspiration among the archives.
Here, I've got some old naval recipe books, and I'm under strict instructions to look after them.
Heston hopes that by fusing his brain food ideas with great Navy dishes from history, he'll inspire the men to think differently about their diet.
So this one's 1940. It's celery soup, rabbit pie, Scotch broth, roast deer. Sounds alright to me, this. Kidney soup. If I put kidney soup as a starter, followed by baked heart, I think I might not get off that sub alive. I'll get lynched.
He spots some intriguing recipes in a book about meals eaten by the most famous figure in naval history.
Yeah, here, Feeding Nelson's Navy. Portable soup.
This age-old recipe is highly nutritious, but very light on the stomach. But what about breakfast?
there's something called bagoo, which is basically, it's like it was a porridge. Now for me, I put porridge on for breakfast because it fills you up, and it's certainly a lot healthier for you than eating a fry-up every morning.
Back in the lab, Heston sets about fusing his ideas for healthy brain food with traditional Nelson's Navy classics. He's concocted an oatmeal bagoo, to which he's added blueberries to enhance brain function and a touch of Earl Grey tea and orange juice.
Something to them. That's it.
Meanwhile, Jockey and Stefan are preparing a brain-boosting omega-3 rich broth from seaweed and flakes of dried tuna for Nelson's portable soup.
It's called portable soup because it's just that, it's portable. All the ingredients are simmered together and then the whole lot is reduced until you're left with a cube of jelly. This is then brought back to life on the sub with a touch of hot water.
Heston adds crunchy eel bones for calcium and texture.
Now I think the men are going to love it.
It's 5 a.m. and HMS Turbulent has resurfaced. Heston's about to find out what the men make of his healthy naval classics.
He's got to come up with something that's going to appeal to everyone.
Well, I think it's going to be difficult for him to make a big change because a sausage is a sausage and a piece of bacon is a piece of bacon.
How are you?
It can't be something massively fancy because we can't continue that for 90 days.
Hello.
Morning, guys.
In the sub's galley, Heston meets up with chefs Martin and Gaz.
Okay, so first off, this is a dish called bagoo, which is an old naval porridge recipe, which is basically porridge with treacle. But I know treacle can be quite an acquired taste.
Yeah.
So we've added some maple syrup in there, but because it's breakfast, we've got a bit of Earl Grey tea and a bit of orange juice in there as well.
Right.
We'll end up with a bit of treacle and blueberries to finish it off.
I get the tea.
Get the tea and the orange juice.
Yeah.
That's not as bad as I thought it would be, actually.
I'll take that as a compliment. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you go through it again.
The crew are about to find out what's replacing their beloved bacon and eggs.
This is called bagoo, and we found an old naval recipe. It's basically porridge with treacle, but it's also got orange juice and tea. So it's orange juice tea, maple syrup, and loads of blueberries.
Doesn't know that appealing.
You know when you enter the toilets and you have to pick a trap? Which one looks best? This is not a trap I would go to.
No, it's not my cup of tea.
He's got no taste, has he?
I wouldn't eat it if it was served to me, so yeah, no.
I'd rather not eat anything than eat that.
17 minutes, green 1-0.
The disgruntled crew return to their posts. Heston's not beaten yet.
What we've got to try and do here is change a habit. And for some of these guys have been eating like this for 20 years, so it's a massive habit to break and change. And without doing something fairly drastic, I don't think enough people will change their diet.
The next challenge for Heston to overcome is lunch.
Bearing a 034, rate 1,900 yards.
If some of the guys found the bagoo hard to digest, I have no idea what they're going to make of this main meal. They've got instant jellied soup, they've got fried eel bones. It's a big challenge.
In the 10-foot square galley kitchen, Heston shows Martin and Gaz how to make Nelson's portable soup.
I'll put a piece of that on their bowl.
Yep.
And I'll come around with the hot water, let it dissolve, and then I have their soup.
As well as the calcium-rich eel bones, Heston's added other low-fat, high-protein, vitamin-rich ingredients.
Tofu.
We are slightly hungry.
Yeah.
If it's not up to scratch this time, he's going to get it full bore.
Right, so this is the first part. The soup.
The knees and those
that smells
So there's tofu, there's freeze-dried shrimp, there's sweet corn, dried sweet corn, seaweed, and fried eel bones. And they're crunchy.
How will eel bones go down with the men?
The eel bones are like Japanese versions of pork scratchings.
I'm not a big bone fan.
To the dried ingredients, the men need to add the jellied tuna and seaweed stock and boiling water to make up their soup.
You get it to stir and it should all of that will dissolve.
Try with some prawns.
That is horrendous.
I didn't like it. And I'm not a fussy eater at all. I consume my own body weight in food on a daily basis, but no, it's just too fishy.
I'm not chipper on these. Maybe I haven't got the backbone for it.
Down the corridor, Lord Nelson's portable soup isn't going down any better with the officers.
No, it's very fishy.
Rather a packet of cup of soup, to be honest. As far as the sort of Chinese-style fish soup goes, fair enough in a restaurant, but for our purposes, feeding the men, filling them up to do a 6-hour shift, that's not going to cut the mustard.
I agree. It doesn't do it for me.
Heston is summoned to the officers' ward room.
Heston, come in.
Thank you. Just have a seat in there, Heston.
Starting off with the fish soup, which is tasty, but I don't think there's enough substance to it for the men. If they've been on the bridge in the cold for 6 hours, they really need something when they come down that's going to fill them up.
Okay. And actually, what does that do for morale? If we're trying to change something with which is the right thing to do, but actually, was that the way we wanted to go with that particularly?
I've got an indication that the crew really are up for change, but they still need some familiarity and they still need an element of comfort food as well. So it's getting a balance between taking away some of the stuff I think is too heavy for them, replacing it with healthier food, and giving them some of that real comfort feeling.
With instructions from Commander Ramsay that he has to do better, Heston's back to the mainland and back to the drawing board.
I now realise that if I'm going to get them off their stodgy diet, I've got to come up with some dishes that are healthy but don't pull them too far out of their comfort zone. One of the Submariners' favourite dishes is Friday's fish and chips. So I'm going to tackle Fridays and see if I can come up with a healthy alternative.
To start with, he concocts a spicy haddock kedgeree and a delicate salmon sushi wrapped in seaweed.
It's absolutely delicious.
Really delicious, very moorish.
But he's about to come up against a problem he's not used to at his 3 Michelin-star restaurant. Chips are cheap, and his healthy alternatives don't fall within the Navy budget of less than £1 a meal.
We can't provide good food, tasty food, nutritious food, brain food under this tight budget. I'm telling you, we're going to really struggle trying to get this.
We've got no choice. That's the budget. They're cutting costs left, right and centre in the military and the Navy, so they're just not going to move on it.
This is really tight. It's a very tight budget. We've got a big ask.
I know.
Heston knows he has to find a way to stretch his shoestring budget. Fishmonger John Godden usually supplies the fish for his restaurant's £160 a head menu.
Things here. First of all, we've got some beautiful sea bass over there.
That's lovely.
Spanking sea bass, hand-lined sea bass as well. That'd be £9.95 a kilo. Cut down about £3.50 a portion.
Right, just to let you know,
yeah,
I've got less than that for a whole day's worth of food. 3 meals.
How much have you got to spend?
£2.32.
A whole day? Well, that's ludicrous. Well, okay, we'll see these cod here.
Yeah.
The chefs only buy them in fillets, so if you want, we can fillet them off.
Yeah.
And you can have the heads and the carcasses, and you can have those free of charge.
That sounds great to me. That will really help me out. Right, I've got my fish. But now, I've got to come up with a recipe that the guys on the sub are going to really enjoy, because there's no way in a million years they're going to eat something looking like that.
With only a few weeks before HMS Turbulence sets off on a 10-month mission, Heston's busy trying to turn his free fish scraps into a healthy but cost-effective replacement for traditional fish and chips.
On these heads, you have some of the most beautiful textured and flavoured pieces of fish you'll ever find. The tongue, this soft palate here. There's the cheek.
Heston takes these delicious parts of the cod that most people put in the bin and disguises them in a light coating of breadcrumbs.
This is a perfect disguise. Okay, so there's the tongues. I do think like this, it looks like scampi.
Yeah.
They like fish and chips anyway. Delicious. Soft, gelatinous. You never know that was cod's soft palate.
Instead of chips, he plans to serve quinoa, a healthy grain, with flavonoid-rich blueberries and fennel. But he needs a catchy name to sell his fish and chip replacement to the men.
Tongue-in-cheek scampi.
Yeah, I think I'll go down really well.
Tongue-in-cheek scampi with quinoa, blueberry, fennel, flavonoid salad. Might have to work on the name a little bit.
On board HMS Turbulent, Heston hopes his exciting new fish dishes will persuade the men to give up their beloved chips. While Heston shows Chef Martin how to make his kedgeree with fresh eggs and chopped herbs,
You can smell all the spices coming.
there are already grumblings coming from the dining room.
Today, you'd be breaking tradition if it was going to be anything other than fish and chips on a lunchtime on a Friday, so we'll have to see, won't we? Is he going to go against the grain?
Does everyone like fish?
Yeah.
First day.
Oh, is this fishy?
That was nice.
I think it's fantastic.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. I could go with that. I'm sure half the lads on board could as well.
But will Heston's tongue-in-cheek scampi with flavonoid-rich fennel, blueberry and quinoa salad be a step too far?
Hey guys, how do you think this is going to go down?
Don't tell them what that is until after they've eaten it.
It's not what they're used to. What will the guys make of it? So far so good. Time to tell them what's in the breadcrumbs.
It's cod, but it's cod's head. It's basically, you've got a mixture of cod's cheeks, cod's throat, and the cod's tongue. The most gelatinous one, the one that's the sort of stickiest, nicest one, is actually the tongue.
Yeah.
Was anybody a bit shocked at the fact that it was cod's head?
No. Still really nice. It all complemented each other, like the tartar kind of tasting salad and the fish. It didn't matter what kind of fish it was. The batter was really nice as well, crumbly. It wasn't greasy either.
I think 90% of the crew would like it.
Yeah, definitely.
So who would be willing to swap Friday's fish and chips for this?
Yeah.
Heston's won the men over, but if tongue-in-cheek scampi is to make it onto the subs menu, he needs the captain's approval.
Lunch, I struggled with quite a bit. We understood we got fish tongues on some sort of salad, but I wasn't quite sure what the salad was. It was almost a substitute for fish and chips without the chips. I can't see the men buying into it.
Your feedback on the dishes was not in kilter with your crew. I asked them, I said, hands up who would happily substitute fish and chips for this dish. Every single one of them, bar from one person, put their hand up. Certainly what I absolutely got from today, right as rain, is that these guys are up for change to a point. With all due respect to you guys, you're the big chiefs, but I don't care about you two as much as the crew. The main task you set me was the well-being and the motivation of your
that's
crew.
absolutely right. Men
and that's
first, self-second.
everything I've focused on. For me today, there was enough there to motivate them.
That gives me hope for the overall effect we're attempting to have here. But I'm still convinced that there are issues that we need to tackle in order to make sure that it lasts the length of time. It's not just a short burst of 1 meal, 2 meals, maybe a week's worth of meals. This has got to last in excess of 90 days.
Heston may have succeeded in breaking the submariner's love affair with stodge. But there's one problem he hasn't tackled so far, the problem of storing fresh food on board for 90 days.
Be careful, right?
With Martin as a guide, he examines the stores.
Try and step on the runs if you can, but put all your weight on these bars, right? Don't put it.
It's rocking around a bit, isn't it? God. Food is absolutely rammed. Boxes and boxes of stuff. How many kilos of onions do you get on here?
Fresh food only lasts for 2 or 3 weeks. For the next 10, it's tinned and frozen.
If you look just behind all the boxes, you can just about make out the freezer doorway.
Oh my God. So if you want something from the freezer...
That's all going to come out.
This is a whole new problem.
In his kitchen at Bray, Heston tackles the storage challenge, how to keep food fresh for 90 days at sea.
After a couple of weeks on the sub, all of the fresh food just runs out and you can't pop out to the supermarket. So I need to come up with some dishes that are just as tasty and nutritious on day 90 as they are on day 1.
Heston starts to explore a traditional French cooking technique known as sous vide, which he uses in his restaurant. The food is vacuum sealed, which preserves nutrients.
So these are now ready for cooking.
And then simmered very slowly in a water bath, which traps in flavour. But there's even more wizardry in Heston's technique.
Once the ingredients are cooked and sous vided, they can shrink to 1/4 of their size. Those onions, chopped, cooked and vacuum sealed, takes up that much space.
By using the sous vide method, Heston plans to solve the Navy's 2 biggest cooking problems, making healthy, long-lasting meals and saving space on board, which would mean fewer journeys back to land to restock the freezer. It would be a radical change, as meals would have to be pre-cooked on land. To push it through, Heston will need to convince the heads of catering for the entire Navy. Bill Ferguson and Jan Tremaine train all Navy chefs to cook everything from scratch on board. They see no reason to change.
When I've been on board, all the chefs have come up trumps. They're different standards, but could Heston improve them in the role they are on there? I mean, it's not fine dining, is it?
No, unfortunately, no. He can improve them in his world, you know. But I think we were doing a pretty good job.
But for me, I'm sceptical at the moment. Obviously, is it going to improve the chef's life on the submarine? If he can do that, all well and good. The question is, can he?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Unless he can convert Bill and Jan, then Heston's master plan is doomed. So he invites them to Bray to pit their traditional naval cooking methods against his radical new technique. Heston and the Navy chefs will both make the same beef stew with exactly the same ingredients.
Recipe number 103, which is brown stew and dumplings.
Having browned the meat and vegetables, Heston has vacuum sealed his stew and left it to cook slowly for 12 hours in a water bath.
So that's it. Just leave that in there until it's ready.
Jan and Bill will be cooking their stew from scratch, just like they teach the chefs to do on the sub. In a few hours' time, 2 of the sailors' partners will be giving their verdict on both stews. Will Heston's sous vide method beat the old-school Navy in a taste test?
Challenge on. Good luck.
Best of luck.
Best of luck.
Thank you. You need
Cheers.
Nice one. He's confident, ain't he?
Yeah. Comes before a fall, I find.
Yeah. Picture in our sights, Bill.
No worries.
Got to be the winner, mate. Got to be the winner.
Finally, both stews are ready to be served.
You all right there, lads?
Yeah, we're fine, Heston, yeah. You worry about your boy in the bag there.
To Corinne, the captain's wife, and Louise, Able Seaman Newman's girlfriend. What do they think of stew A?
The carrots are slightly overcooked for me. They're just kind of
very, very soft, aren't they?
And stew B?
Wow, that's different.
It is different, yeah. It's nice, and the carrots are done better, aren't they? They're not as soft.
And the meat's got loads of flavour in it. A lot more than the last one did, I think.
Time for the moment of truth.
Here we are.
B.
Dish B.
It's a triumph for Heston's sous vide stew.
All fair in love and war. And meat stews, eh?
The sous vide technique has won on 3 counts. It's tastier, healthier, and avoids the problem of bulky raw ingredients.
His tastes so much better.
I think, you've sold it to us today.
We have.
Eventually.
Flipping hell, it's one of the hardest things I've had to do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Heston.
The heads of catering are finally on side. But if Heston is to have any chance of rolling out his menu across the whole Navy fleet, he'll now have to convince Commander Ramsay. It's the morning of Heston's final visit to HMS Turbulent. Today he'll be rolling out his radical new approach to submarine food, which could revolutionise the way the Navy feeds its warriors. It all hangs on winning round the captain.
But I've got to persuade the captain and show him how the ideas that I'm going to push through today are going to change the way they prepare, store and cook food on the sub.
Heston's previous dishes were rejected, either because the men didn't like them or the ingredients wouldn't last long enough.
I'm hoping for something that's more suitable to the submarine environment, something the lads are going to buy into. The challenge is quite significant. He's got to deal with the storage piece, keep it within cost, and most of all, make sure that he influences the morale of my men.
For this make-or-break meal, Heston will be serving a healthy but filling lamb hot pot and chili con carne. Having been sous vide'd in advance, now they just need to be reheated. Heston's keen to persuade the officers of the advantages of his new method.
Here are the ingredients required to make a hot pot for the crew of this sub. This is the way they would normally be arriving on board, stored like this, including these containers for the mushrooms. Now, over here, you have exactly the same ingredients. They've all been sous vide. So, here we have carrots sliced in butter. They're cooked in here.
How long will that last for then?
Well, this can then also be stored in the freezer.
Right.
So those 4 plastic tubs of mushrooms become this.
That's quite incredible.
Now, I think it would save such a significant amount of space.
Yeah. So what about nutrients? Does this keep the nutrients in there?
This will keep more nutrients in.
OK, Heston, thanks very much for this. I think the proof's going to be how the lads like the food, and I want to talk to my XO alone to discuss this further.
OK.
OK?
Good.
So how will the food go down with the men?
Hot through. Right, lunch.
Cooking the main dishes in advance also means Heston has had time on board to come up with a few morale-boosting extras.
There's tortillas, there's salsa, there's guacamole as well, and these are corn muffins, but they've got pieces of jalapeno peppers in them. You've also got a spiced butter. And the idea is you take one of these, pop it in your chili and mix it, and it'll make it richer. I won't describe them, I'll just show you. So it's you.
Very good. Can I have one of those submarines? These look lovely.
The Lancashire hot pot.
Smells very nice.
The key thing with this is cooking the meat a day and a half at low temperature, then lamb neck fillets, so you keep them really, really tender.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Really tender.
It is, yeah.
Well, delightful, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Absolutely brilliant.
And Heston's making sure they still get their brain-boosting blueberries and chocolate.
And it's just frozen puree.
In a lolly shaped like a spearfish torpedo.
And then it into the chocolate. And that's it. It's a chocolate-covered torpedo.
Oh!
Do you want? I'm gonna.
With the men fed and satisfied, Heston is summoned for his last meeting with the captain.
Hi, Heston.
Hello, Heston.
To say that I'm slightly apprehensive about what you guys have got to say is an understatement.
I think you're right to be apprehensive, because if you remember the first time down the submarine, you were very shocked, I think, by the limitations aboard the budget. I remember you were particularly surprised by that, the size of the galley and the fact that they have to store food for 90 days. And then when you came back to sea with us a few weeks ago and prepared a meal, we did have quite a mixed response from the ship's company.
However, what's been amazing to see is how you've recovered from that and what you've done for us. It's been quite incredible. The lads enjoy the food, every bit of it. I don't think there's been anything negative being said about it.
I'm thrilled that it's gone down well.
Even better, Heston's radical cooking ideas might have an impact far beyond the kitchen.
I was immediately impressed with it, and so impressed that Gareth immediately called up the headquarters to discuss it with them.
When?
Today.
Today?
Yes, whilst you've been working in Gala, I've made a few phone calls. I've phoned our headquarters in Northwood in London to discuss with the people who program submarines on operations, and explain that how if we took the vacuum packing idea to sea, we could increase our endurance to spend longer on operations, which is in itself is a massive capability enhancement for our Admiral.
I'm kind of lost for words, to be honest. It's. I don't think I couldn't have hoped for as great an outcome. I think it's incredible. I can't believe it. Seems like this has been going on forever, and an almost impossible task. Daunting, nerve-wracking. Completely thought I'd been beaten into submission. And then to hear that they've already called the MOD and the Admiralty, and they're interested in looking at not only rolling it out through the submarine fleet or the naval fleet, possibly the army as well. To make a point of difference in this arena might be one of the greatest achievements I've ever done.
Things get seriously out of hand at an assembly about discipline. Jamie's Dream School, tomorrow at 9. Next tonight, a new series as a pop diva tries to become a fashion retailer. Lily Allen, from riches to rags.